lot of people are suspicious that you know more about this than you're telling.
His mistress?
You sent him seductive pictures the day after he buried his wife.
Finally speaks out.
You move in how long after her death?
It was a couple of weeks.
He said you were the nanny, but in fact you were his lover.
Yes.
Hard questions.
Did he ever give you any warning signs that he wanted to get rid of his wife? Did you ever meet Michele? Did she know he was having an affair with you? Are you still in love with him?
Shocking new revelations.
You represented that you were married to him, and you used as your wedding date the day that his wife was buried.
Let me explain this.
A daytime exclusive.
Did he invite you to her funeral?
No, I wanted to get my respects.
You disrespected her in life, but you wanted to pay your respects to her in death.
When you're in love with someone, it's very easy to be very delusional. And you see what you want to see, and you trust what you want to trust.
Do you believe he is guilty, or do you believe he's innocent?
I believe.
The doctor, his wife, his mistress, the murder.
Okay, I'm glad you're here. Everyone knows this story, and everyone thinks that you were involved, which of course you were involved in some way, but you say you were not involved in any way with the death of this woman, right?
That's correct.
I mean, I want to give you a chance to say that right straight up front.
Absolutely.
All right, but you were involved because you were involved with her husband.
Yes.
And you had been for how long of a period of time?
It was a little over a year. It was about 15 months, I think.
Okay. And tell me, what is it you want people to know? Just right off the top, why you want to be here and what it is you want people to know about you.
The portrayal of the media has been very, very harsh. It has been very hard. I never signed up for this, and I am a real person, and you know, I've made mistakes, and I'm sorry for them. I guess I would say, you know, try not to judge unless you have been in similar circumstances, and so you have some sort of personal insight into it. It's been a very, very hard time. Hard experience, hard lessons learned.
What is it that's been said about you that isn't true? You were his mistress.
I was.
And the truth is that even the most naive observer would have to consider that you were potentially an incentive for him to kill his wife, which a jury just found him guilty of.
Yeah.
The jury find the defendant as to count 1, murder, guilty.
The idea that I was incentive is appalling to me, and it's very hard to swallow.
But you have to understand,
I
he
do
meets
understand.
you, takes up with you, is now convicted of killing her, and you move in how long after her death?
It was a couple of weeks.
And when you moved in, there was a deception to the family members, right? Because he said you were the nanny,
Yes.
but in fact, you were his lover.
I had been, yes.
Okay. So you understand.
I understand.
Those things those are just the facts. And one could then conclude that you were an incentive to this, and I think it is a huge leap to say, therefore, you were involved in her death and you helped plan it or you did anything. I don't mean to imply that at all. That would be a huge leap, but you do have to understand.
I understand.
If his mind was demented enough that he needed her out of the way to have full time with you, that then you were an incentive to him in his world. It could have been the case.
Yes.
As you sit here today, do you believe he is guilty or do you believe he's innocent?
You know, the jury came back and they said that he's guilty, and I have to respect the jury. I believe that they made a decision based on emotion. I believe he did not kill Michele.
You think that it was an accidental death?
I do. I think it was a natural death.
Okay. All right. Now let me back up a little bit. How did you meet him?
I met him online in 2005.
And so then you met in the real world,
Yes.
and you hit it off.
Yes.
Did he tell you then that he was married, or did he let you think he was single?
It was a little while after I'd actually met him, I believe.
That he confessed to you that had you
think
been
so.
intimate with him at that point?
No.
So when you started having an affair with him, when you started having intimate relations with him, you knew he was married.
Yes.
And did that bother you at all, that I'm sleeping with someone else's husband? I'm an interloper here?
My mindset back then, and I realize it is not the best. I had been married once. I looked around me and I did not see marriage working out for too many people. And so my attitude towards that was, if someone else is married, that is their responsibility, that is their life, it is completely separate from me. And I have come to see that that attitude has caused a lot of pain in a lot of people, and it was never intended to be.
Did he talk to you about his marriage?
A little.
Did he love his wife?
He said he loved his wife, and she was a perfect wife, and he had a perfect family.
Did she know he was having an affair with you?
I don't think so.
You don't think that ever came to
I
light?
don't think that ever came up.
Did he ever mention to you about divorcing his wife and being with you?
No, there was never any serious conversation like that at all. I mean, there were periods. I was kind of the escape, I felt. So he would come and see me, and we would enjoy our time together, and I felt that I was the escape. And so, just in passing, there were moments of frustration in his life, but it was not something we really delved into, and there was never any serious conversation like that at all.
One of his daughters had said that days before her death that they had been fighting about an affair. You didn't know that?
I didn't know about any of
And
that.
I don't know that that's true. According to a search warrant, an affidavit in 2004, it said that you told your then roommates that you wanted to get rid of Michele.
These particular roommates that came forward had moved out of my home more than a year before I ever met Martin. I believe that they wanted attention. I believe that they saw a lot of things in the media, and
They said they saw a picture of his wife in your room.
that is totally impossible.
You move in as a nanny,
Yes.
right? That was,
The way I was portrayed to the family and neighborhood.
okay, and you and he, of course, knew that you were a lot more than a nanny,
Yes.
that you had a separate relationship with him. Did the kids suspect that there was more going on when you first moved in?
No, not when I first moved in. I have heard now that they have, or they did, perhaps, but
Okay.
not at the time.
Now, you actually wound up in trouble yourself, correct?
That's correct.
And you wound up in jail.
I did.
For how long?
It was about a year and a half,
About a year and a half?
I believe.
Okay, and you and Martin were arrested for identity theft, correct?
That's correct.
Now, this is after Michele's death.
Yes.
Okay, tell me what happened. How did that all come about?
When Martin and I got together, I had significant debt. It was tax debt and education debt, some other things. He was concerned about adding me to the bank accounts under my information for fear that the money were seized for my debts. And so what I was told, I mean, this was temporarily until the house sold and my debts were paid, he wanted to add me just to give me access to the accounts under his daughter's Social Security number.
Okay, so he has a daughter named
Giselle.
Giselle. Okay, now Giselle is out of the country,
This is true.
and he says, okay, she's away, so he says, we'll just use her name and her Social Security number.
Yes. He said that as long as, one, people wouldn't notice. Two, we were just doing it to grant me access to the account. And there was no injury to Giselle. There was no way anything bad would happen.
Is there any point at which you would have said, this is too much, I'm out of here?
Well, he did. He threw me in prison, and that was enough. That's what that was.
How did he throw you in prison?
Well, I had done all of the things that he'd asked me to do, believing that he knew what was going to be all right.
Okay, and you said, look, he said to you, which one of us has a law degree, right? But you don't need a law degree to know that using someone else's identity, using someone else's social security number to evade getting on the radar screen of the government when you now have access to money, or for any other reason. You don't need a law degree to know that that is a crime.
I do. I know.
So
we argued about that. I did question him, and I thought, again, love is blind. I thought he knew best.
You cut a deal for some modified immunity to testify against him at trial, correct?
Modified immunity.
Did you make a deal with the prosecutors?
To testify?
Yes.
The deal that I made with the state of Utah was that when they brought state charges for the same activity that we had done federally, because they're considered separate courts, so they can charge you both ways, rather than doing another state sentence, one of the criteria was that I would be willing to testify against Martin in any legal situations that might come up. At that point, there were no charges filed.
Did you testify against him at trial?
I did.
And what was the most damning thing that you testified about?
Our relationship was the damning situation there.
Which brings us full circle back to you became motive.
That's what they say.
You've got a man who cheated on his wife multiple times with multiple women. He cheated on his children, what, 8 children?
Yes.
He cheated on all of his children. He cheated on the government. How in your fondest mind did you ever think this man would be loyal to you when he's cheated on everybody else that's ever been in his life?
It's a very good question. I guess I loved him so much. I hoped and I thought that I think when you're in love with someone, it's very easy to get very delusional, and you see what you want to see, and you trust what you want to trust, and you know. Sorry.
Did he chew you up and spit you out?
He betrayed all of us, all of our trust, all of us, even me. He's destroyed my life. But even so, having been there and looking at the facts and being very analytical, it's hard for me to accept.
Gypsy, I appreciate your candor in coming here. Is there anything else you want to say before you go?
I believe that it has not been taken sincerely when I have said it in the past. But honestly, I am so sorry for any part I played in anyone's pain as a result of this. I was more selfish back then. I did not have the proper perspectives on what was an appropriate way of living. And, my family, his family, it has been tragic for everyone.
If he reaches out to you from prison, will you respond?
No.
Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.